who are you? There's a lot, what business you should get into has a lot to do who you are, right? Both in terms of your capacity to tolerate risk. How many hours do you want to work? I had a client yesterday about he wants to do a restaurant, right? A lot of people see restaurants as an ego type business. I have a restaurant, right? It's a nice thing because you're feeding people. Everybody seems to be happy. But the reality of restaurants is that and I'll ask people, I say, are you married or you have a significant other? Are there people, like, are you in a relationship or something like that? A restaurant has a potential of killing that very quickly.
A thing that people say frequently that I don't know if I agree with. I'm curious about your opinion. There's no such thing as a dumb question. What do you think about that statement?
I had a philosophy professor who told us that the question is often more important than the answer. Okay, so while there might not be any dumb question, there are also you have to analyze the question before you give it an answer. How is that? Because there's a lot of assumptions packed into a question.
Yes.
Right? So it is not neutral.
Yes.
It's not necessarily objective. It may sound like a question, but it is often a statement. You have people who will say, and I'll say, you did make an appointment to speak with a business advisor, right? What's your business project? He says, actually, I don't know. In fact, my question is, what business do you think I should go into? Right?
What a fun, interesting, I always see that as a crazy burden of responsibility being placed on me. It's to me, it's an unfathomable question that I could never think to ask somebody that.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I'm gonna go into business,
it's a weird question. Let's put it that way, right?
I'm gonna know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna know what I want to do. But some people, and this goes into kind of something that we covered in the last podcast, which is some people are just, they want that time freedom. They want the financial freedom. They want to be able to control their own schedule. And that's why they're seeking to do this. And they just want to get into something that is maybe that they're likely to succeed in.
Yeah. And often they were asking, what they were asking is, what's making money lately?
Yeah, that's a great one. That's a great one.
What's being profitable? What are people doing, right? And that's making money. But
what my answer to that would be?
Yeah.
Everything.
That is true. In fact, that would be the right answer, right? You can make money in any business.
Yep. Look across every industry that exists right
Somebody's
now.
Somebody's making money doing something that maybe you wouldn't be doing, but
somebody might think is like discouraging or not helpful, but really it should be like the most helpful.
Sure.
You should be like, oh, so I can shift my focus and really get clear on what it is that I want to do.
Yeah. And the true answer to the question is you can basically answer by saying, who are you?
Ooh. Oh.
Right?
I just got hit right in the soul. Let's go. Break it down.
Who are you? Because there's a lot, what business you should get into has a lot to do who you are, right? Both in terms of your capacity to tolerate risk. Yeah, how much risk can you take? How many hours do you want to work, right? I had a client yesterday about he came in for he wants to do a restaurant, right? A lot of people see restaurants as an ego type business. I have a restaurant, right?
I see. Sure. Yeah.
It's a nice thing because you're feeding people. Everybody seems to be happy. But the reality of restaurants is that and I'll ask people, I say, are you married or you have a significant other? Are there people, like, are you in a relationship or something like that? A restaurant has a potential of killing that very quickly. If you are in a relationship, you shouldn't go into a restaurant without not just a blessing, but the partnership of that other person.
Yeah, that's a very serious conversation.
It is not a 9 to 5.
Right.
When you're starting, you're probably buying groceries and vegetable at the if you really want to cut your cost, right? You're gonna go to the Bronx market early in the morning. That's 5 o'clock in the morning, right?
That's not a 9 to 5.
No, no, no. That's at 9 o'clock at night. You're not going home yet, right? These people are still sipping their drinks and whatever. You're gonna get home just on time to hit the sack. It's a 7-day business, right? Can you do that?
Can your family
Can
take
your
it?
family take it?
Can
right?
you take what it does to your family?
Yes, yes. And here is a business where you may not be doing well when you first start, right? The last thing you need is to get back home, right, and not get that total support. Let's go again the next morning. Let's go for it. So some people are very successful at restaurants, but that's fine. But I'm saying that here is an answer that bears into who you are, what are you doing, your values, and also very importantly, where have you been before you get into this business, right? Which basically gets into the question of what kind of expertise do you have in the industry that you're trying to get into?
Right.
Because here's the thing. When you look at the failure rates of business, right, it's almost failure to take off, right? You don't. It happens within the first 3 years, right, of business, right? It's failure to take off. What happens is that it suggests that there's been a lot of miscalculations. You are making normal mistakes that people make when they don't know what they're doing. Your problem is that you don't have enough capital to make it sustainable. Right. You would be successful.
Right.
You would.
If you had enough money.
If you were able to hang in there for another 5-7 years and whatever. By then you would have learned, you would have gotten the expertise that it takes. So realistically, you should get into a business that you have some familiarity, the more the merrier, with the industry. Okay, which means that you would know something about the market, you would know something about the seasonality, you would know something about managing the operation, even if you weren't the owner before, but you would, it's like the guy who worked in the shop. You looked at what people were doing. You are intimately familiar with what goes on in the business. That's a good business to get into. Does that mean you'll be successful? Well, no one can predict that. But objectively, if you wanted to, look, people do that kind of stuff, right? They have personality charts. If you want to buy a franchise, good franchisors will get into that with you, who you are, where have you been, what have you done before. They want to know.
Why do they want to know?
Oh, because they already have a profile of the type of people who will be successful in that business, because they have experience in it. And then they ask you for two things. And yesterday I discussed it with my client who didn't quite understand what that meant, right? There is net worth and liquidity. And he says, I don't understand why are they asking, what is that? I say, well, the liquidity is the amount of money you must have before you invite everybody to grand opening. All right? It has to be liquid. Your network can be buried in your house. Maybe.
Right.
That's your network,
yep.
Right? When you consider the price of housing in where we live, we all have $1 million, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's a good. Right? So not me. You'll get there. You'll get in that much debt soon. Don't worry.
We all have networks of that kind of network, right?
The American dream.
But that's not going to help you when you need inventory. That's not going to help you, when you have to, because it's not
slow.
liquid.
It's too slow.
It's not liquid. You can't sell your house.
Yeah.
Right?
You could.
Then you have to buy another one, right? So this is so I was explaining to them the difference between that $500,000 of liquid assets that they're talking about, which is anything that's convertible within 15 days or max 30
Right.
days, right? And you're networked, which could be a lot, but it's not useful to you right away.
Yep.
Okay, so those are all the considerations that people should think about before they decide to go into a particular business.
Right.
You sort of line them up and you say, okay,
Yeah.
this will help me, this won't help me.
Sarah, I'm gonna need your help on this one. In the first episode of the podcast, is entrepreneurship right for you kind of theme. We talked a lot about passion, about finding that thing that drives you and motivates you, because that is going to be something that helps to carry you through. But passion not being enough. And there's a Venn diagram that shows like there's like 3 P's, and it's passion. It's 2 other P's that I'm leaning on Sarah for. But one of them is maybe it's proficiency, something like that, which goes to the skills, which is a big point that you're making. It's like, what do you already have in the can? Like, what skills are you bringing to the table?
Exactly.
And I think something that people miss in this is like, I want to start a bakery, but I'm an accountant, and I've never worked at a bakery. I've never worked at a cafe. And so I can't, like, what business do I have doing that? And it's like, well, how many cupcakes have you made in your life? They're like, oh, well, like, I don't know. I lost count. I make them all the time. Like, okay, well, that's experience.
Yes.
It's not just, certified behind the desk making sales, but like, what is your whole life experience with this? So you can consider that. So it's not like you have to be cut off by what you've done that's like earned money.
Right.
But what have you done? Oh, that's my broadcast engineer, Sarah, in for the win. So this is exactly it. So purpose, persistence, passion, and in the middle is success. So this doesn't include the skill part, but I think that it's your purpose is driven by your passion, right? You kind of have the whys. You're answering the whys.
Why are you doing this, right?
But the persistence, that's an attitude thing. But all of these things are typically driven, like where you have skills and where you work and the experience that you have are typically driven by something that's at least interested you somewhat.
Yeah.
And so in your passion, when you're looking at the kind of combination of this gray portion there between the purpose and the passion, that combination is kind of where I see skills coming into play, because if you have a purpose, if you have like a sense of purpose, like whatever it is. So maybe it's like, I want to share my culture with the world, and I'm going to do it through food, through the restaurant.
Sure.
And I have a passion for cooking and following up my mom's recipes. Like, okay, well, you had the skills that you've developed over time that you're able to leverage this. So it's almost like it's almost like a backdrop of having the proficiency or having the skills or the ability to accomplish that, however it comes.
Sure.
So I think that's a crucial.
I think passion is often thought of as a mental thing, right?
Right.
As mental.
Yeah.
Right. However, that comes up sometimes in job interviews, right? I mean, the candidate says, "I'm passionate about ABC," right?
Yeah. Accounting.
And you say, "How many ABCs have you done so far?" Or anything related to ABCs, right? A person who's passionate about baking, granted, you haven't had a bakery yet, but you should be proficient at baking, at least at the level that you are in your own kitchen and everything else. Often that does not prepare you for baking commercially,
No.
right?
No.
Often it doesn't. It's just like somebody who cooks well at home and has no idea how big those
Scale.
things are when you get into commercial cooking.
Yes.
It's no longer those little things. It's just like big vats of
I
stuff,
have to make
right?
a soup for 500 potential guests
Exactly. It's
tonight.
completely
And then
different.
being able to put on the business hat of projecting, like, okay, well, it's Tuesday night. How many people are we expecting to come through between this time and this time? How much soup do I have to have? How many ounces goes into a bowl? How many bowls are we going to serve? Like there's a lot of planning
There's a lot
that
of
goes beyond. That's a great point.
Okay. So yeah, passion is good, but passion is not simply a feeling.
Right.
Passion, you would have expressed that passion in some form that is transferable to the business that you want to do.
Passion should be driving action.
Yeah.
Like that's the reason that passion matters at all.
Exactly.
If it's not, if you're passionate about it, I mean, I can't even. Is it passion if you're not taking action on something? If it's not driving an action, is that can you be passionate?
It's questionable passion.
Right.
You have to wonder how passionate are you about ABC.
Yeah.
If you haven't done it, you're not driven to do it.
Yeah.
Right. That is at
That's
least questionable.
I'm gonna sit there and ponder this for like the next 2 weeks. This is really good.
People who are passionate about some things usually do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's like you can't. It's like you're being pulled by something.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's a good place to
if you say I'm passionate about reading, right? Oh, that's my passion.
No.
I love to read.
That's like an
right?
interest. Or
you say, no, I'm passionate about reading. And then I ask you, well, what are we reading lately, or what's the last book you read?
a couple of weeks ago.
Like then,
I'm passionate about listening. I'll listen to books all day.
That's great. That is great. But someone who has not listened to a book, or read a book,
Right.
and they claim to be passionate about reading, that becomes somewhat questionable.
Yeah. I don't even know if you could be. This is a whole world. This is a whole thing.
Yeah.
When you take this under the lens of what business should I start, there's maybe a beginning step is to look and list out and say, what are the things that I am passionate about? Right. And say, and you can cross-reference that with exactly like you said, with skills.
Yeah, sure.
So like, here are your maybe most recognized externally skills, and work your way down to like least. And so it would be, I'm a CPA. And then at the bottom, you're like, I cook really good soup that my kids love.
No, absolutely, sure. So this is why people are interviewed to show either their skills or their personality. Like you go through an entire interview. Skills inventory is a thing.
Yes.
For example, if you've worked for people all your life, right, and now you want to go into business, but a lot of what you've done is actually transferable skills.
Yes.
Right? It's transferable skills. Maybe it wasn't your business per se, but you've acquired management skills. You've acquired people skills, customer service skills.
Yeah.
Right? Those are transferable.
Yeah. Yeah, and having a template, having something to use, and I'm sure that we have that, where you could break it down by category, and say like, okay, well, category soft skills. What does that mean?
I am sure that this is somewhere there. If you go online, this is something that is systematically done to identify where, it's just like kids saying, I don't know what I want to do with my life, right? And they say, well, what do you like, right? What are you good at? What do you do? I think it's the same thing for exploring, not necessarily deciding, but exploring a business. Another thing about choosing a business is this. If you look at a business from the point of view that it is an investment, which it is, right? The most fundamental rule about investing is that you should only invest in things you understand.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Right?
If
you don't understand it, like, your friends may tell you that he's made a lot of money with cryptocurrency, but if you don't understand cryptocurrency and how people make money with it, maybe you shouldn't be investing in cryptocurrency.
Yep. And it's something that you can build up knowledge about over time, like with the amount of information out there and the amount of resources, like the SBDC, you have a business advisor, and pre-business venture, like we can kind of work through a business plan, what that looks like, what are the requirements.
A business plan. A business plan is really structured education.
Yeah, exactly. That's such a good way to put it. Structured education.
It's totally structured education.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I tell people, like, you may have come here because You're thinking of going to a banker, and that's noble. That's a good cause, right? But the primary beneficiary of a business plan is you. Because if you do it right, and this is why if you pay somebody to do it, you're missing something. If you do it right, if you struggle to it through the questions you must answer, to the realities that you have to face on paper, you haven't done anything, it's just on paper, right? By the time you're done with it, most people come out with a much, much clearer idea of the business that they're trying to get into from different point of view, marketing, operation, financials.
Yeah. Yeah. You can take your idea and you can really get, and that one of the things that I like, and one of the things that I do when I'm working with clients is use Skills, and they have a business building online portal, which is great.
Sure.
But the thing that I really like for this specific spot is their one-page business plan called like BMC, Business Model Canvas. And I think that that's a great tool for this exact thing.
Sure.
Because you're not going to go through and build like your
Sure.
10, 15-page business plan.
But it gives you a crystal clear,
Yeah.
summarized idea.
Yeah, and by the time you're done with it, you either acknowledge that passion, you're like, oh, this is doable. Like I can do this. Or you have the thing like, I could do it, but that's a lot of work. Like, I don't know if I'm up for all that. And if you have that feeling, then it's like you're missing one of those P's. Like you don't have the passion, you don't have the purpose.
Sure.
It doesn't connect.
And saying that maybe it's not for you is also a win.
Yep.
Because
It's a huge win.
it's a huge win because you could have mortgaged your house. You could have
got the
money.
SBA loan.
Yeah,
Like-
that happens. Yeah.
That's scary to me, and it's not even my business. Like,
No,
yeah.
you're stuck with it.
Yeah. That's great. This podcast is produced by the New York Small Business Development Center at Farmingdale State College.